all three of you, welcome to the first live stream from SeligAudio. Coming to you from my studio here in the North Woods of Connecticut, where it's been really, really cold, and we got some super cold weather coming up this weekend. So time to fire up the studio, get the tubes going, and get everything nice and warm. So I'm gonna just wing it because I think that's more fun. I got my chat feed here if anybody wants to say hello, and I will twist around like a pretzel so I can read it. I'm going to talk about the Infuser today, and we're going to look at a synth that I built in a Combinator 2 environment that I'm really, well, you're hearing it right now. And it's a binaural synth. Let me just show you. So this is I don't know if anybody's familiar with the UDO Super 6 synthesizer. It's a binaural mode synthesizer. It can be 12 voices normal and 6 voices in binaural, which is the same thing on both sides with the opposite modulation happening. And that's what I'm doing here with this synth. And it's hopefully pretty easy to understand. It's really super simple behind the scenes. It's just 2 Thors, and that's it. And one is on the left and one is on the right, and right now it's being exaggerated. And it sometimes does better as pad sounds, but I really like some of the effects, especially with the LFOs, out of sync, kind of just randomly panning all around like that. So you'll see I'm also using Infuser, of course, on this. First of all, is everything coming through okay? I'm seeing it, and I'm looking like I'm broadcasting, but as this is the first time for me, I'm not ever going to be 100% sure that it's actually working. And so I'll just dive in, and somebody scream at me if they can't hear or something's going wrong. I'm also recording this, so we'll be able to play it back later without any video interruptions if there are any. So also for this little line that I'm using here, I'm using Infuser. And while it's really good on drums, it can do a bunch of other stuff too. Right now it's doing bass enhancement and some top sparkle on this synth track. Let me play you a little bit of this in solo and show you what exactly it's doing. First of all, with this little pattern, I thought that the bottom note needed some enhancement, so I'm triggering the sub from the audio signal. You can hear that it's dynamic. It's not the same every time because this is an envelope follower rather than a triggered envelope. Then I'm doing some little farty bass enhancement there, giving it a little extra room, and then some top end, which is just bringing all that stuff out. Now I don't know who knows about Infuser or doesn't know about Infuser, but it's basically, I like to call it the salt and pepper of the audio world. You don't expect it to bring a strong flavor of its own, although with the sub section here, you really can get kind of crazy. But it's designed more to be subtle and to enhance what's already there, rather than to give it something new or change the sound radically. So it's not a distortion effects device, but if you want to really pronounce something, you can always just run it soloed, and you can hear that it can do some fairly, not extreme, but exaggerated sounds, especially if you're modulating anything. And of course, as anything, it depends on the source that you're feeding it. Also, we're not using this right now, but I could turn it up. I created a binaural hull based on Dioxide's RV7000 combinator, where the parameters, it's two PCM70s inside there, one for the left and one for the right, and the parameters are altered slightly between the two to give it a little bit of extra spread. I've got some other tracks to play for you to show you what I'm doing. I just wanted to show one more example of something. The comparison to a typical spread saw wave like Antidote, where you have 7 voices spread across the spectrum, versus something like the binaural synth, where you just have a left and a right voice. Let me just get that one oscillator. I'll switch back and forth. That's Antidote, and it's mono, and then spread, and then binaural. And what I think I like about it that makes it work for me is that it goes super wide because there's nothing in the middle, whereas on the typical 7-voice super saw, you usually pan them across and you'll end up with one of the oscillators dead center. And if the idea is to create a pad sound or a sound that gets stuff out of the way, then it's going to be a lot easier to do if you don't put anything in the center to begin with. Let me see. I don't have a... I'm going to show you some different patches, but I've only programmed a few so far because I keep finding little things to change about it. One of the things that, like I said, it really does well with is the longer sounds. And let me just cue this up here. And you can hear stuff moving around. So in everything, including the LFOs for pitch, are doing different things in the different channels. The pitch envelopes, or the tune envelope, or the pulse width modulation on LFO, are all doing similar, usually just inverted version. For example, with pulse width, it goes narrow and wide on the left and wide and narrow on the right, and so they're kind of working against each other, or not against each other, but opposite of each other. Yes, it sounds like it's flying around the room. That was the first thing I noticed when I was building the first patches and playing with the idea. I didn't really intend to build something, and this is just going to be a freebie, but I didn't intend to build something that I thought anybody else would get. I just was looking at videos of the Super 6 and thought, binaural synthesis. I haven't explored that. What does that actually mean? Is there anything in there I can use? And after I got a few things patched and flying around the room, I thought, this is pretty cool. Let's keep going. So I'll post the link for this in the thread on Reason Talk, where I mentioned the live stream. Let me just move on though and call up another track. I can't remember where I've put stuff now, and I thought, oh, I know what, it's all under recents. This is another dancier track inspired by Knife Party's Boss Mode, which is one of my mix references that I'll use on a system that I've just encountered for the first time and want to know what it sounds like. It's got some great low end that comes in about halfway through, but this is just I used the kick and snare samples as a starting point, and I'll just play a little bit of this and discuss after it goes through about 30 seconds. Okay, and that gives you an idea of what's going on. Let me just solo up a few things here and show you. One of my approaches for EQing in general and enhancement of tracks is to find the body and find the presence and then get rid of anything in the middle that's mud or making it less clear. This is the too low, the punchy kick, and then the 808 dive kick. That's before. Kind of noisy and lacking some bottom. Now, the before and afters aren't going to be dramatic because I've compensated, like I've pulled back 5 dB on this Infuser here because it's easy to get fooled thinking that it's better when it's louder. And if you just click on a lot of devices, they'll be a little bit louder, and the same is for true for Infuser. Let's find the snare. So sometimes after you've boosted a lot and then compared, you're like, oh, that sounds awesome. And then you realize, oh, it's 6 dB louder. Of course it sounds awesome. And you compensate, and then you're a little bit deflated. Like this is a good example. That's without it. That's with it. You can hear there's a little bit more bottom end and a little bit of sparkle on the top. This one actually uses a little of the noise, the fizz section. And that's all it's doing there. A lot of times that's just going to add stuff, the way I use it anyway, in the top octave. But you can actually also use it to create shaker effects and other types of things. Even the hi-hats using Infuser. Let's see if I can get the all solos off button. There it is. And we've got these effects where an accidental feedback loop I created when I was sampling the kick and snare, and it got recorded, and then I just chopped it up and used it as a part of the song. Never throw stuff away. Then, just because this is an Infuser demo, the whole drum bus has a leveler and an Infuser on it. Without it, and of course it stops. This is without it, and with it. Definitely brighter. Without it, and with it. And that might even be, looking at it, that might be the initialized settings. When you first put an Infuser on a track and click on the boom and sizzle sections, this is what you get. And I find that a good half the time, that's a great starting point. It's not all I need, but a lot of times I'll end up leaving it like that. That would kind of represent the classic smiley face curve that's on a lot of, well, probably a lot of people turn up their stereo. Every time I've ever rented a car and looked at the, got to load a big one here, and looked at the EQ on the car stereo, it's usually bass and treble are maxed all the way up, even though it doesn't sound any better necessarily. It does sound louder, but you also usually run out of power quickly doing that. Got another example here of a rock song, modern rock, 90s rock, kind of, from about 10 or 15 years ago when I first moved out west and was recording this young band, and they did really good. There was a bit of editing. You'll hear that the drums are not particularly clean when I go in and solo stuff, but let me play you a little of the track so you can hear the sound that we got here on this. And I remixed this for Infuser, for all the Infuser fans out there. Hopefully the buffer will allow it to play. I forgot to set it higher.
You used to fix small things for me. You found my wallet and my keys. You used to help me day to day, and I would look no other way. I still remember way back when we felt so close, just like a friend. Now I sit here cold and wet, enveloped by the fear I met. You used to smile and look at me as I would sit so reverently, but now you shudder when you see the man that I've grown up to be. I used to come to you and pray you might take some pain away. I used to hope in everything, but what the hell did hope and bring? Once I fed to love me, now you're nowhere to be found. Once I knew you loved me, but now that faith is not around. And on that
Okay, let me just stop it there, and buffer's on 512. This will play a lot cleaner at 124, 1024. So this is all tracked live except for the vocal, and I don't know, 31 tracks I think of audio, and all the effects are going to be here on the left, mastering up at the upper left. Oh look, an infuser on the whole mix. I'm not sure I would always do that, but for this type of sound, it actually worked out really well. Oh look, the mastering's not actually on. No, it's not. I should play a little bit of that with this on. I turned it off because of the latency from ozone. Probably doesn't sound a whole lot different. It's just louder.
now I stutter as I say, why did it have to be this way? My God, I'm
Well, as you can imagine, there's infusers everywhere on this, starting with the kick. There's 3 mics on the kick, or 3 tracks, in mic, inside the kick mic and outside the kick mic, and a sample. And the drums are going to stop soon, so let me go ahead and do this. There's the inside mic, here's the outside, which I've actually rolled off some top end because you don't need it. And there's some gating going on, and then the nasty sample. For rock tracks like this, I almost always have a sample going to steady things out, especially with a young drummer who's not hitting consistently. And it's nice to just blend that in. It's not sample replacement, it's sample enhancement. And the samples usually don't get a whole lot done to them because they're chosen for their sound. Sorry, somebody is talking about likes. So yeah, hit the like button. I forgot that's what I'm supposed to be saying all the time and making little, like me things. Okay, let's look at the approach. The bottom and presence is evident here. The low, let's start with the kick drum. It's just trying to find the frequency, and I can also describe that the kick in mic is going to be a lot of the body and middle of the sound. The out mic is going to be the bottom end, and the sample is going to be the top, the click or beater, and kind of handle that. So this sound on its own won't be that interesting. In fact, it's got a little bit of the basketball effect going on, but once you put the other sounds in there, it kind of fills it out. And let's go on to the snare. Now this is the first time I was ever in a studio as an assistant, and I heard the engineer getting sounds and the drummer was playing, and then he went and soloed something, and it was probably the snare drum. And I remember thinking, that's the snare drum? And then realizing, not right away, but eventually, that that's just part of the snare drum. It's one of the mics that's going to contribute to make the whole drum sound. So the overheads, the way I like to work, are a big part of the sound as well. So the individual mics are never going to sound complete And over time, I just learned what they're supposed to sound like to make the big picture work. I don't even know if I could explain it or teach it, but I know how to do it. So that's some kind of boxy bottom in there at around 200. You don't want to do too much of that, but if you add some brightness to it, it'll work nice. The second, oh, here's an extra one. This is a super secret trick. This is a guitar amp plugin. I love this. This was free. I don't remember when, and I grabbed it thinking, maybe I'll use it on something, and then I found that it's just a nasty little amp. I've got it toned all the way down and low output, not high output, so it's not even doing as much as it could. And it's giving me the honk, I call it, on the snare. And apparently the ride cymbal too. Let's go to the snare bottom, which will sound kind of papery and like you're underneath the snare drum, and then the sample. And that's also got a little metallic kind of ring to it. Looks like I have a coloring EQ that's not actually doing anything. Interesting. Probably was going to try it out and didn't ever do it. Or this is actually the third time I've done a mix on this song, and since 10 years ago, I bring it up every once in a while as an example of a little bit of everything in a format that I already know and a style of music that I can stand to listen to over and over again. Now, the subsection is good on Infuser for kick drums, obviously, or even creating your own 808 sounds and playing the melody from a matrix or other device, or from MIDI. But it's also handy for toms, and this is based on, the whole subsection is based on a trick that I remember reading about that they were doing as early as the 70s, where they would take the sine wave generator, set it to a low frequency, and then put it through a gate, and then key the gate from the kick drum. So if they had a kick drum that didn't have a lot of bottom end, they would just add it in with the sine generator and dial it to the frequency that was needing to be reinforced, and then set the decay on the gate to be just long enough to match the kick so that it didn't sound like it was this would have been pre-808. They weren't looking for a boomy ring, they just wanted a little bit of reinforcement. And by keeping the decay time down, you can do that same trick with the added benefit, because I learned this while I was building it, that you need to key sync essentially, but gate sync in this case, the start of the sine wave so that it's the same every time it sees a signal. Otherwise, sometimes it'll cancel with the kick and other times it will reinforce with the kick. So you can get very uneven response if you don't do that, which ended up being a big chunk of time to figure out how to do it accurately from a raw audio signal. On the back, by the way, good time to mention it, there's a sub polarity button which just inverts the sub internally so that you can have a better reinforcement. Most of the time it works as it is, but if you're adding it in and it sounds like the kick is getting smaller instead of bigger, hit that baby and see what it does. Now, let's hear the toms. These toms now were cut apart in Pro Tools and chopped up on and had everything. It's like extreme gating, basically. You're chopping the tom and then doing a quick fade out. So they're going to sound really kind of disjointed, disconnected because of that. But it works in the mix, and it works in a rock mix. It wouldn't work on other types of mixes. And you can hear I'm letting them ring a little bit, and they are definitely distorted. Let me drive that down. And if I play just that one, you'll hear that was the original. Let's take that resonance off because that's adding. You'll hear that there's not a lot of tone there. However, there is a lot of cymbal. With these two engaged, we get the tone back, and we kind of get the cymbal under control a little bit. Now I'm also doing a little bit of this top bell kind of boost to get the stick attack to come out, because I was struggling. Once I boosted the bottom end, it's kind of like a chase your tail thing if you're not careful. And so it's in the context, at least I like to think it works. Okay, good time to look at guitars. This guitar was one track, one take kind of thing, so I had to actually, here we are, copy and paste to make a double track for the guitar. And on the verse, I just leave it with one, starting at the front with the clean sound. There's a delay in the opposite channel. So the guitar's panned right and the delay is left, a quarter note delay, which you probably would not have even heard in the track, hopefully. Then we get to the chorus and we get the two tracks. Luckily, he played the same thing every chorus, so it was really easy to find the double track and build that. I'll show you what's going on with this crazy coloring EQ when we get to the end. Let me see what I've done here on the, oh, that's the synth. I think I've just done the whole guitar bus with Infuser rather than individuals. And I've got two pretty sharp boosts, and what's going on is this one's doing what I call the note or the tone. Sounds weird on its own, but this one is doing the noise, the which you can hear, and they're working together. Now, why I'm doing the lower one is when I'm working with these crunchy electric guitars that are all distorted and playing a lot of power chord-like parts, you get the if you make them bright enough, they turn into almost white noise in a mix. They just start going, and you lose the definition or the note. And they can be actually quite loud in the mix, and you cannot tell what note they're actually playing. And this lower EQ is a answer to that, because trying to boost anywhere below 500, and you're just going to make it muddy. We got the bass down there. We've got a little bit of a synthesizer line in the background that's going on. And between them all, you get a more balanced sound, or at least I like to think you do. The mix, by the way, is probably about a 3 or 4 hour mix of the song, just to show examples of these plugins. You can actually see I'm using quite a bit of leveler here too. So if anybody wants to, I'll explain what's going on there, but if anybody wants more information, I'm happy to dive into that. This is the bass. I kind of skipped the bass, and let's find out where the bass plays. The bass player is probably the weakest member, sorry dude, of the band, but this was like 10 years ago. He's probably better now. He just had timing issues, so I used a lot of Pro Tools stretch and fix and move, and it kind of makes the bass lose definition a little bit, but it's better than the way it was before. Fast release on the bass to try to catch his parts. Let's see. Yeah, it's a little louder. And on Infuser specifically, this almost sounds like woolly mammoth territory. I always love the way low frequency distortion sounds when only the low frequencies are distorted. It's more what an inductor is supposed to do rather than what just typical clipping or tube or tape saturation does, which is more or as much on the high frequencies. And when I discovered that effect, I probably overused it like anything new, and now I think I got a little bit better grip on it. And then this is This is that same between 500 and 1,000. Bring out the pitch a little bit and bring it out for small speakers. You can hear it's very nasally and kind of mid-rangey. And that sits around where the guitars are to support them a little bit so that nothing is down really super low. I'm not sure how low the guitars are going. Let's see if we can see. Yeah, I've got a pretty steep cutoff on them as well. And nothing really gets boosted till over 1K on the guitars, and a good little notch here around 380 or so. Let's move on to the vocals. Lost my mixer. There it is. Bam. The vocals on a rock mix would be the same for rap or anything aggressive. You can get away with a good bit of this Infuser type of effect. Sorry, I know that comes in really loud when I first hit it.
And on that cold September day,
oh, you can hear the different effects on the, let me play you a chorus so you can hear
the fear I've met, you used to smile and
a lot of automation going on with this.
As I would sit so reverently, but now you shudder when you see the man that I've grown up to be. I used to come to you and pray that you might take some
automating levels too.
I used to hope in everything, but what the hell did hope
okay,
bring?
let's bypass this.
Once I felt you love me, now you're nowhere to be found.
Little delay on that.
Once I knew you loved me, but now that faith is not around. And on that.
So you can hear there's a little slap back, there's the long reverb, there's the delays, there's a lot going on. Again, with the exception of those, love me, those aren't really supposed to be super obvious or super heard. They're just supposed to add some interest for the vocal. Obviously, I'm using leveler here.
Cold September day, you turned to you turned away.
Which is just bringing up the low stuff. Using the de-esser, okay, this is where it gets fun. I had forgotten I did this till last night when I was looking at this song. This is actually splitting the voice and the sibilance. The voice goes through the Infuser, the sibilance does not. The reason for that was I was really trying to push the high-end exciter type effect, and the sibilance was kind of getting in my way. And I remembered I can just split that. I already had the de-esser there. It's just a matter of hitting look ahead, putting it to VS mode for voice and sibilance, and patching it up. So the voice goes through this Infuser, the sibilance goes through this SeligAudio, so I can cut it off there, or I can cut the voice off there. Somebody was asking recently, why do you have an off switch on Reason devices, bypass on and off? Well, I hardly ever use it, but every once in a while, like with this, it actually comes in handy.
Now I
can turn off the voice so we just hear the sibilant track, which always just makes me smile. It cracks me up a little
now,
bit.
Just let me know you're there somehow.
This is even weirder sounding.
I fell astray. My God.
But that allows me to push this brightness
Wish
up.
me away. I used to come to you and pray.
You can hear it's actually in my phones, it's just right on the edge of as bright as I would like it to be without it being aggressive, overly aggressive or abrasive. And it's bringing up the lower mids as well. We're starting at about 3K and on up. And then we also have this one down here that's bringing some more body into the voice to, in my mind, help it compete with those heavy guitars.
You might take some pain.
Oh, it sounds weird with the sibilance.
I used to hope in everything, but what the heck?
Now you can hear it's actually distorted. It's actually saturated there, and maybe you'll hear it here. Yeah, that's a little buzzy too, but remember these two sections, boom and sizzle, when you solo them, they are 100%, but when you unsolo them, they are mixed in with the original signal. Now, the original signal has those frequencies cut out so that basically when I turn on the boom, there's a dip in the low at the same frequency, and when I turn on sizzle, there's going to be a cut at that same bell shape on the high frequencies, so that you can add this in, the saturated signal in, and not have things get too out of control. You're not adding to what's there already, you're kind of compensating. I like to think of it like, and I don't know why I came up with this analogy or what it means, but if you dug out a hole in the backyard and filled it with gravel and then put rocks, like tile flagstones on top to make a patio, the idea would be to keep it level just as it was before, but instead of dirt, there to be gravel and rocks now. So it's like the dry channel scoops out the frequencies to make a hole, and then the saturation channel fills in that hole perfectly with the shape that's required to fill it in. And at the default level of 0, which that's already lower than, they are a little bit hot. There's going to be, it would be like little mounds of dirt on the yard instead of a level yard. If you bring it down to -6 or so, it's almost perfectly level at most amount settings, so that if you really want to be subtle and you're not trying to make it brighter, you just want to make it more saturated, like softer, or you're not trying to make the bass louder, you're just trying to make it bigger. Because also remember that saturation, in addition to adding frequencies above the original frequencies, or adding harmonics, you're also adding sustain, because you're essentially clipping. So your harmonics that you're adding and the original fundamental are going to have a little bit more average energy to peak energy, so they're going to be louder. So that by bringing those up into the mix, you're actually kind of creating a little bit of leveling and smoothing of the overall dynamics, in addition to creating some additional harmonics.
I used to think you loved me, but now you're nowhere to be found.
And then this final gain is just a little level trim, because I was doing so much here, I needed a place to quickly compensate for the changes. In the end, it was doing more earlier, but in the end, it's only cutting by about a dB. And that is the tour. Oh, I didn't show the keyboards. They only come in on the bridge. Synth line. Oh, wait. The piano only comes in on the bridge in the Mellotron.
Once I knew you loved me, but now that faith is not.
I went too far. This is the chorus line, which is also very distorted. I think that's this track here. Nope. Where is that one? That's this. And that's at 783. That's doing that melody boost, it's called. That finding the pitch and of the, it's not really the pitch. It's just being able to hear what note's being played. I find that range, that octave, somewhere between 500 and 1,000, if your track sounds like it's loud, but you're still not really able to tell what it's playing, try a little bit of a boost in that range and see what you can do to bring it out without turning the whole thing up. I will play the, oh, I was about there. Oh, that would have been a nice opportunity to do a panning delay. There's piano and Mellotron that comes in here. Mellotron has got this mid boost, thinning it out. There's a guitar on this whole section too. That's why I didn't really try to make the piano or the Mellotron very big. So this is the whole picture besides the voice. Piano on the left, guitar on the right, Mellotron in the middle. Okay, I'm going to show you one more thing at the very end, just because I'm excited by how good of a job this does. You may never need this. If you're wondering what this crazy display was. At the very end of the song, the guitar player just kind of doodles around and does this. So you can hear this is a very noisy track, but what you can't hear is how much buzz there was on the track. There's the buzz. And it really is annoying, but check it out. Buzz gone. Buzz back. Buzz gone. So this is a series of, it's actually 2 comb filters. One's an octave above the other one. And at 60 hertz, if you're in Europe, there's a preset at 50 hertz. And it's tuned all the little notches and plus some more that are added from the parametric, asymmetrical parametric, which has the most narrow notch, are all spaced at electrical mains frequency harmonics so that you can remove hum from things without really affecting the rest of the signal. And you can hear that it doesn't affect the tone. It's not like the hum's gone, but so is the important stuff. It's just the hum. Anyway, that was a good opportunity to use that. And that's more or less everything I think I had. I can turn this on though. This is usually my working backdrop. It's all the instruments behind me doing their thing. It's almost always on, and I'm bored. If I'm bored, rather, I will go and spend some time over behind me and get excited about things again. So if there's any interest, or if there's any requests, I will take requests now and see what people want to know more about. I do have a little, I feel like dad. I have a presentation, a little slideshow I put together of the studio construction. And if anybody is interested in that, I will be happy to share it. And it shows what the place looked like when we started and what we've done and where it ended up. And maybe I will just go ahead and do that because I did prepare it and I am proud of it. Oh, actually, it's supposed to look like that. There. Still learning my way around this live stream thing. Thanks for everyone. This was about the turnout I was hoping for, considering that I didn't really want a lot of people to see me fumble through my first live streamcast, whatever it is. And it's hopefully something I will do again in the future. What I'm really ideally hoping for, because we have such a cool space here, is what I used to do with friends back in Nashville, which was to get together on downtime at the studio of your friends or wherever you were working yourself, and just do mic shootouts, do talk tech, try out a new piece of gear, let somebody else see something that you've just got, and go through and talk about like a new reverb or something and how you're using it and what you like about it and don't like about it. And it's something that we can do virtually now, so I thought I would consider doing something like that where we could take requests. I could even, in the days before, if somebody wanted me to mix one of their songs on the program, I could do that and send me the tracks ahead of time, and or answer technical questions of I'm having a problem with this, or how do you approach this issue. So let's just, I'll go through the studio because I'm in the building of my dreams, basically. We looked at a lot of different properties. We found this one with the garage. We talked the guy into discounting the price of the house, the amount that it would take to convert the garage, and he agreed to that, to sell it. And this was before COVID, so there wasn't the market that there is now. But what we started out with was a 2-car garage, and it had some storage areas on the left there, which is up 6 inches higher than the rest of the garage, and it's still that way now. So I have a little stage at one end. Everything circled here was something that was removed or modified. So the big one down here is the garage door. I can also circle stuff. Check it out. That's the garage door, and that was removed, and it's a wall, double French doors, and a window now in that same space. This is the architect's plan. There's the double doors and window that were added. And then this whole area up here, this whole area is 6 inches higher. And we have that sloping ceiling that you can see in this picture. This is looking at the outdoor building. This is breezeway here. So that's actually, that door there goes outside, so it looks like it goes into another building, but that's actually just straight out to the other side of the building. And this whole area is the studio to the left of that door. This is what it looked like inside. You can see there's the wall here and a door and a step up. And actually that little step up goes all the way around. You can see it there too, all the way around the building. So I have this little ledge all the way around the whole room, and it actually is a good way to keep furniture against or from getting against the sound panels and knocking them accidentally. So I'll just skip forward. This is demo. Demo is always fun. And we're taking everything out, opening the whole space up. The floor's going in here, insulation in the floor. And you can see, let me see, there the subfloors in. I'll find a good shot of this crazy space. Oh, we had to put a new beam in here. And you can also see that the rafters that were going every 16 inches are now 3 are tied together and 3 are tied together. So basically we took out every 2 and moved them over to join in with 1 out of every, every 3rd rafter was left, and then the others were taken out and moved over. And so luckily these are exactly 4 feet apart now, and that's where my sound panels lay. I didn't even have to attach them. And you can see another quirky thing. These rafters, this is a little triangle here because it's actually 2 feet higher at this end of the room than at the other end of the room. So behind me, it's 9 feet to the ceiling, and at the center beam in the middle of the room, it's 11 feet. The other specs of the room are it's 21 by 31 feet, including the 8 feet of this what I call the stage area up there. The highest point is 18 feet. Here's electrical going in, and here's spray foam insulation going in. This is 18 feet at the peak there, so it's a nice tall ceiling, and it's virtually open with my a few sound panels in there. And here you can see that little lip that goes around the room, the step down. And interestingly, when the spray foam was put in, the acoustics were worse than with the wood. It was so hard and dense, it just reflected sound back, and actually wasn't any different once we put in the drywall. So there's been a lot of acoustic treatments. That's the ditch I had to dig to put the air conditioning in. This is a better view here of how it actually looks now. There's still some scaffolding up in the ceiling for them to work, and the ceiling fan isn't in yet. Getting ready to be mudded here and then painted here. Oh, that's how the outside looked. We were waiting on doors and windows because of supply chain issues even a year ago, a year and a half now. And nothing's been painted yet, but everything's closed back up. Here's the flooring. And it's starting to look nice. The flooring is all in, but the paper's in. So the first thing I do is get the speaker and the test mic out and start shooting the room to see what it sounds like empty, so I can plan my sound panels. And of course it wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. The subwoofer is actually now, it sits up on the stage right here in front of me. And I may add a second one at one point. But you can see the sun comes in nice and pretty. And I've got the sound panels in up here, and the ceiling fan I see, but we still have some scaffolding. So I'm not sure what was going on. There's blue tape still, so the painting was still going on, and that's getting closer here. You can see this panels right here are the same as the panels right here above my mix position, and it's actually, besides the little strip of panels behind me, is the only ceiling panels I've done. I've got stuff all over the rest of the room, and none of that is up in any of these shots, but it is up in this shot, which we started the show with, and is probably a great place to end the show with as well. Looking at the clock, I was trying to keep it around an hour. It looks like it's about that. And oh yes, somebody's commenting on my chill modular. Yeah, this is one of the things that I've always loved about modular, is just building these evolving patches and just letting them run and trying to get things set up so that they only come at certain times, and then you don't hear them for a while. There's one that I haven't heard it yet. I guess it's part of that little helicopter sound. But you never know. So a lot of times it's whatever was left from last time with a few modifications. And I was trying to get my little animation here. Oh, I know what's going on. There. Now it'll move. That's what I was trying to do. Yeah, that was when it was nice outside and I could open up the doors and have the screens on the door there, so I can open up the double doors and the windows on the right side there behind the drums, and just let the breeze flow through, and it's wonderful. So maybe one day, if we can get through this COVID thing, we will have people coming in person, and if anybody's ever in the neighborhood and would love to show you the studio. Although I am in the middle of nowhere here in Roxbury, Connecticut, we do have famous people that have lived around this area, I guess because it's so close to New York, including Deborah Harry, and at one point Marilyn Monroe, a couple miles away. So on that note, that unexpected note, I will bid adieu, and you'll see me maybe in a monthly. I doubt I'll be able to do it weekly, but maybe I'll try to do a monthly show live from the Northwoods House of Sound and Fun here in Connecticut. Until then, everybody, please go make some music.